The Fed15 podcast is presented by Serving Those Who Serve, a fiduciary, fee-based financial planning firm serving federal government employees and retirees all over the country. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended to be taken as financial advice. All listeners should consult their personal advisors before taking any action. The opinions expressed by our hosts are their own and do not reflect the views, policies, or position of either Raymond James or Serving Those Who Serve. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to this week's episode of the Fed15 podcast presented by Serving Those Who Serve. Each week, as you know, if you're a returning listener, we will discuss the latest news and info that feds need to know in 15 minutes or less. So whether you are a seasoned federal employee who knows the ropes, or whether you are just starting out in your career, Fed15 has got you covered for all the news you need to know, but might have missed. We are your hosts, Katelyn Murray, and I am joined by the man in black himself, not Johnny Cash, folks, but Mr. Dan Sipe, who is in black again this week with an update for us on the shutdown potentially looming in the distance. As of
I prefer to refer to it as the shutdown that will be averted. The shutdown that will be averted.
Yes. Yes, good energy to put out there, of course. But before we dive into the serious stuff, you guys know we like to kind of have a little bit of a chit chat to open the show. I actually have updates this week. Year end. Yes, the crazy holiday insanity and end of the year has wrapped up, and I actually have a life now that I can talk about on the podcast. I actually I had the pleasure of going to an improv show in Raleigh, North Carolina last night, actually. And it was Colin McCree and Brad.
Oh, yeah.
I forget his last name. Yeah, it was Colin and Brad from Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Yes.
It was a lot of fun. And actually we had the opportunity to get up on stage for some audience participation, which was really fun. As part of, I've talked about my theater on the podcast a couple times. And one of the things that we do is improvisational comedy shows. So it was kind of fun to do that at a different level. Years ago, I had the opportunity to have a workshop with Colin and Ryan from Whose Line. So actually I've met Colin before, and they're really just incredible to watch the ideas.
Ryan's like super tall, right?
Yes, super, super tall, super skinny, beanpole guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was great. It was a really fun time. They're on tour right now. I think they're going to be coming through. It's mostly East Coast, but if you're interested, definitely check out their tour.
Very cool.
It's a fun night out.
Very cool. So were you up on stage?
I did not go up on stage, but
More's the pity.
Yeah, I did not go up on stage at this time, but my partner did go on stage and immediately got put in jail. So in stage jail. So yeah, it was fun. But yeah, definitely check them out.
So then did you have to post stage bail?
I did not. They did let him. They did let him out.
Okay,
It was,
right.
it was his first offense. So.
Okay, got it. Let him off with a warning.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so we have some, we've got a mixed bag of news. We're going to also go over TSP performance numbers. So we're going to give you a little sour and then a little sweet on today's episode. Dan, do you want to talk to us about?
Well, I'm in black, and our regular listeners know why, because we're still not resolved.
Mm-hmm.
And, folks, I have one color, and it's Fed. So shutting down the government as legislative process is a non-starter. So I've said that a million times. That's not a lever of government. Okay. So here's where we are. We're under CRs and stopgaps. Okay. And we're two-tiered. So Department of Energy, Department of Transportation, VA, Housing and Urban Development, their deadline is January 19th. The rest of the government, with the exception of DOD and the military, is a deadline of February 2nd. Military and defense agencies, funding was approved when Congress passed the NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act, in September. Okay, so we've got that two-tier. There's stuff that has to happen. Now, one thing, because this we know is important to our feds. That's what we're talking about it. Could your pay raise be affected? We have a little bit of a script for this from 2018, which we all want to forget. We never want to revisit that, and we never want to top it. Ever, ever, ever again. That sort of reset the pay raise, so they had to go back and pick it up with a later bill. So if there's a prolonged shutdown, then there might be a new pay raise enacted whenever the budget's passed. But for the time being, civilian, DOD, and military have the 5.2 because of the aforementioned NDAA. So that's a good sign. That's a precedent. So cautiously optimistic that pay raises will move forward as planned. So what do they have to do? Okay, they can pass another stopgap or continuing resolution. Okay, they can, pass a budget. Okay, either through individual bills or one omnibus. I'm okay with either one, guys. Okay, not that you need it, but you have my blessing for either one. Alternately, which we don't want to be clear on that, don't want this. Part of the government could shut down on the 19th, but then a budget or CR is passed before February 2nd. Okay. Or shut down in part on the 19th, second shutdown on February 2nd. And then I hope every incumbent, whether they're on the ballot or not, gets voted out. I don't know how we physically do that, but shutdown, not an acceptable form of levers of power for government. Don't hurt the people that are doing the work for you. Pretty pleased with sugar on top. So that's where we are. It is my sincere hope that I will be back in pink. We know this. Okay. You want to see Dan look stupid in a pink shirt? Pass the budget. No shutdown. So that's where I am, Katelyn.
Gotcha. Yeah. Hopefully, there is time. Hopefully our elected officials can, do the jobs that we elected them to do, get that taken care of. Obviously,
and no matter what, folks, we're here throughout.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
We will be banging out content for you. We've got your back. Okay. We've been through a number of these. I hope I never go through another one again. But if we do, not our first time at the rodeo, we're going to be here pumping out the stuff that you need.
Definitely.
So, Katelyn, give us some good news. You've got some good news to talk about. So,
we gave you a little bit of sour. Now we'll give you a little bit of sweet. So we do have the TSP's 2023 performance numbers. Great news here. All core funds have positive 12-month returns for 2023, which is, a really, really good piece of news considering I was just talking about this with a client this morning, 2023 being such a year of 2 steps forward, 1 step back, right? And every time that we think we're going to get the market rally to kind of correct for 2022, we get it for a couple months and then it falls through, right? So since the first week of November, when we saw that really strong out of the gate activity post, last week of October was kind of a pretty significant dip. First week of November, was kind of out of the gates, with vigor. And that has continued through the holiday season and into January. So 2023, all in all, looking back, pretty good year for the TSP. There was a bounce back from the disappointing returns in 2022. Pretty strong turnaround in spite of economists' warnings of a recession. The global economy seems to be holding up. Housing market is showing signs of slowing, so perhaps we won't get that bubble that everybody has been worried about and so concerned with. Looking, kind of moving forward into January, just from an economy standpoint, there are strong signs of reasons to be optimistic, basically. Leading economic indicators like inflation, unemployment are still looking good, so there's plenty of reason to be optimistic. However, I do want everybody to be aware, and I may have mentioned this on the podcast before, of something called the Santa Claus effect. So the last quarter of the year, obviously, if you think, I don't know if your holidays are as busy as mine, but there was lots going on. People are out shopping. You're spending more than you normally would because you're buying gifts for everybody that you know, and you're going out to dinner for holiday parties and those sorts of things. And that can all, we've all been participating in the economy quite a lot. It's sort of natural to see somewhat of a pullback in Q1 just based on, human behavior. So just something to be aware of there. Don't necessarily panic if we do see that little bit of a pullback in Q1. But as far as the TSP goes, looking at performance numbers here, C Fund for the month of December had a positive 4.5% return, and the year-to-date return on C Fund, folks, was 26.25%. S Fund had a return of 10.45% for December. That is a return for December, 10.45%. Year to date, it was looking like 25.3% year to date for the S Fund there. The I Fund, lagging behind a little bit, but still really strong returns. For the month of December, it returned 5.39%. And year to date, it was 18.38%. So it's a really strong performance there. F Fund, getting into our, more fixed income stable securities. December had a return of 3.72%. Year to date, we were looking at just shy of 5.6%.
That's a huge move in 1 month for a bond fund.
Yes, massive. F Fund has lagged like and lagged all year.
The Fed might have mentioned they were going to pause interest rate hikes and possibly cut. That couldn't have anything to do with it, could it?
Almost like that, yeah.
Almost like that.
Yeah, F Fund, which has been our lagger this year, all year, had quite a strong turnaround. And again, year-to-date number over 5.5% there in the F Fund. And then, of course, the G Fund, December return was 0.39%, but year-to-date, we're looking at about 4.22% in the G Fund there.
So let's think about that. Our F Fund was our problem child as far as bonds are concerned. Mm-hmm. And then in that last 100 meters of the race, 3.72, 5.58 for the year, just zipped right past G. So that's the thing, folks. You can't go on short-term stuff and say, well, I'm not going to be here because of what it did last year or even over the last 10 years, because every dog has his day. Never forget that.
Definitely. Yep. No, that's why you need that broad-based diversified portfolio that is, second part of that, really important, tailored to your needs. Right?
Yep.
So, seeing those really healthy returns in the C, S, and I Fund, I keep getting brought back to, and I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but I keep getting brought back to those massive numbers that we saw shifting towards the G Fund around, when was it, Dan? Around October?
Yep.
Was it September, October? There was that massive shift. I mean, billions of assets shifting towards G.
Yeah, just in time to lock in the loss and miss the recovery.
Yep. Yeah. So
folks,
really important to have a plan, have a strategy. We cover these TSP numbers so that you're in the know and you kind of know how the different funds are performing. But it is important to have a long-term strategy that's geared towards your goals. If you don't have one, consider reaching out to us at askstws@stwserve.com. The email address will be in the description of this video. We'll also probably have a button somewhere that you can click to get in touch with us there.
And also, I'll drop this in, Katelyn. Okay, an L fund is not a strategy.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
An L fund is not a strategy.
It's better than nothing.
Yep.
But, Katelyn, I'm sure you're aware of this, but one of these 5 core funds is routinely underweighted in most L funds.
I am aware of it. I am.
So you want to tell our folks which one is underweighted?
It would be the S Fund. The S Fund, which is supposed to be our small cap index, sort of historically underweighted in those L funds, regardless of the level of risk associated. So it doesn't matter whether you're in the most conservative L fund or the most aggressive L fund, there is an underweighting to small cap that's happening there. So something to be aware of. Which
means what you're saying is 10.45 in a month. No, thank you. I'm good. I don't need any of that.
Over a quarter.
Yeah. I'm not saying, I'm not saying go crazy, put all your money in the S fund. I'm saying when U.S. small cap is the highest performing asset class historically, don't underweight in it. And I don't know why. I don't know why BlackRock does that. They have never asked me for my input. I'd happily give it, but L fund, not a strategy.
Yep. No, I agree. Not a ton of visibility there either, which is my issue with not just L funds, but all target date funds in general, I think are challenging from that perspective, that you don't have the visibility that you do have with a custom built portfolio.
How well I know they're not one of your faves, Katelyn.
Yeah, they are not. Not always bad. Great if you're just starting out and you kind of don't have an advisor, but once you get to a point where you have significant assets in the TSP, you need a plan.
Gotcha. Well, I think that's everything we've got for today, right, Katelyn?
So, that is.
But folks, we'll be back next week to bring you the latest you need to make the right decisions about your career and financial well-being as Fed.
Absolutely. And if you want to make sure that you are here next week to hear all of that great information, be sure that you subscribe to our podcast. We're on YouTube. We are on we're on YouTube under Fed Life. That's the name of our channel. And we are also on Spotify. So make sure you're subscribed there so that you never miss an episode. And please, please, please consider sharing today's episode with one of your friends or colleagues. It really helps us spread the word.
Indeed. For more information on the topics covered in today's show and more, check out the blog at blog.stwserve.com and subscribe to our newsletter, The Weekly Serving, where you'll get the best stuff that we have every week delivered straight to your inbox. You don't have to go looking for it or nothing. It'll come right to you.
Absolutely. We catch all those fish and deliver them right to you.
Yep.
And for those who want to dive even deeper into learning about your federal benefits and financial planning for feds, we encourage you to join us for one of our complimentary webinars. We have coming up TSP planning. I know it's a quick turnaround because this episode is dropping on the 16th. TSP planning webinar on, I guess, tomorrow, if you're listening to this on the day it releases, January 17th, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. So definitely check that out. I know we talked TSP and strategy today. So if you need a strategy, if you want to learn more about the TSP, check out that webinar. We also have, and this is a niche topic, but no one else is doing this. And we appreciate our feds who are special provision employees.
Absolutely.
We want to make sure that you guys are supported. So we are doing a special webinar on January 30th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. on understanding FERS benefits for special provision employees. There's some eccentricities, there's some kind of nuances there, and we want to make sure that our special provisions folks are well prepared for the retirement transition and planning all of that. So if you are special provisions or if you know someone who is special provisions, please, please, please do get the word out. We don't get to have those as often as some of our other webinars. So, January 30th, make sure to mark that date on your calendar because it may be a while before we can get to that one again. If you prefer, if you prefer a one-on-one approach and, maybe you don't have 4 hours to commit to the webinar or 3 hours to commit to the webinar, feel free to just reach out to our team directly. And we're happy to kind of have a financial planning consultation with you and kind of talk about your benefits in particular, right? And the context of your situation. You can do that by emailing that email address that I mentioned earlier, askstws@stwserve.com. We'll be happy to talk with you.
Absolutely. And Katelyn, I'd be remiss, that January 17th date is auspicious because we want to give a big, big, big shout out, since we're on the topic of webinars, to our guru, Ed Zerndorfer. That's his birthday, everybody. So if you're on that webinar, be sure to wish Ed a happy birthday and the questions and comments. He's amazing. He's a tremendous resource, and we're very blessed to have him as part of our team. So happy birthday, Ed.
Bring your own birthday cake slice to that webinar, folks.
Indeed. So, folks, thanks for listening to the Fed15. I'm Dan Sipe, and
I'm Katelyn Murray.
And we will see you next week.